You are listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Well, happy Friday evening, everybody. Yeah, it's Friday. It's the end of the week. How about that? We made it through one more week. This is Scotty Roberts. You're listening to my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. And that's odyssey1.com, O-D-Y-S-Y 1.com. That's where you can go listen to the audio version of this, the version that airs out to iHeartRadio, different internet networks and different terrestrial stations. You can also come and see the simulcast of this show, the live video feed, and that is over at my YouTube channel, Mr. Scotty Roberts. And Mr., of course, all spelled out. There's a live chat room over there. If you want to listen to the show and join the chat room, you can come on over and do that and see what other people are thinking and share your ideas. So at any rate, wherever you are listening or watching, thanks for being here. It's been a nice week. It's been a week of, I think, a very serious topic, and I gotta wrap that up today because I left it a little hanging last night. But first, I want to hit a couple of things that are in the news, and you may have seen some things about this. And when we start talking about the possibility of alien visitation and all of that, every time we see something in the sky or something out there in the solar system, something headed this way, there's always that initial speculation by a certain circle that would say, is that contact that's going to be made? Is there something about that? Other scientists want to be able to explore it. They wish we could land ships on asteroids and comets and things like that to try to understand where they came from and what's there. And so I'm talking specifically about the comet that they've named C/2019Q4. How's that for a wonderful romantic name? C/2019Q4. And there are some scientists that speculate that this has some characteristics that seem very comet-like. Yes, there's the size seems to fit. There's a dust trail, but there is still speculation on what that dust trail is. Is there something coming from another galaxy? From another part of our galaxy that is coming into our galaxy with a trajectory that takes it right past Mars, and who knows where it's going to go from there. Now, if that thing makes a turn toward Earth, I think we'd be pretty convinced that it's something. But if it just stays on its straight course, there's going to be a point where we're going to be able to see exactly what this thing is. And using several ground-based telescopes in Lapaima and Hawaii, astronomers have observed the Q/2019Q4, the C/2019Q4, the first known interstellar comet, and the second known interstellar object identified in the solar system. And this particular anomaly, you could call it, because we still haven't fully identified it yet, there's an assumption made when we assume that it's a comet. It has some of the characteristics, but then again, it's got some characteristics that are uncharacteristically like a comet. So the C/2019Q4 was first detected on August 30th of this year. We're talking less than a month ago, just 3 weeks ago, as a matter of fact. And it was discovered by Gennady. It starts with a D. Gennady. Borisov. He's an astronomer at the Crimean Astrophysical Observatory in Nauchnyi, Ukraine. I should have said just in the Ukraine. And on September 10th, Dr. Peter Guzik of the, I got to see if I can pronounce it, Jagiellonian Universities. I've never heard of that school. their university's astronomical observatory, and his colleagues from Poland and the Netherlands observed the comet using the 4.2M William Herschel telescope, which is on Lapaima, and the 8.2 millimeter Gemini North telescope on Hawaii's Mauna Kea. And at the time of the observations, the object was about 257 million, that's 413 million kilometers, 257 million miles from the sun, and about 318 million miles from Earth. Now, the images that they took of this thing, of course, are small and fuzzy. How do you take a picture of something that's 213 or 57 million miles away? So they're small and they're fuzzy. It's a comet that they believe is about 1.2 and 10 miles across. So 1.2 and 10 miles across. I'm thinking they're thinking that it's 1.2 thick. And they also show this extended coma around it and a broad, short tail emanating in roughly this anti-solar direction. And the canonical structures or signatures of the cometary activity. Now, the extended coma, this is a quote, the extended coma and broad tail displayed by the object stand in stark contrast with the purely asteroidal appearance of, and they've named it, Oumuamua. O-U-M-O-U-A, Oumuamua. Oumuamua. There it is. That's the name they give it. They said this in their paper, that it displays certain details that make them think comet, and asteroidal, cometal. And so both orbital and morphological properties of this body show that this is the first certain case of an interstellar comet and the second known interstellar minor body identified in the solar system. At least, and let's put this caveat on there, at least that we know of. How long have we had the technology to be able to observe this thing? And there are pictures of it, and I'm wondering if just for the sake of doing this, I can actually show you this picture. So here's the question. They see these things, and they begin to wonder, is this something that that could be identified as something other than a comet? I want to see, let's see, I don't think it'll allow me to paste it here. So I'm going to go save this image, and I'm going to show you what this thing looks like and what they're seeing now through the telescopes. And let's just put it over here in my pictures file. And those of you, of course, who are on the audio version of the show, you're not going to get the opportunity to see this, but you can look up the C/2019 Q4, and you're going to see what this thing looks like. Let's see if I've got it here now. I'm going to scroll through and see if I can find the name of it. There it is. All right, folks, those of you watching, you're going to be able to see this pop up here pretty quick. There it is. As a matter of fact, let me turn it off, make sure I got it in the right spot. There we go. All right. So now this is the comet. If you look at the center of the screen in this picture, and you see that little fuzzy white dot direct center near the bottom, this is what they're seeing. It's reflecting light, obviously, and it doesn't have the long trail, the tail that they're used to seeing in these sorts of things. And so there is some speculation going on out there that this might have something to do with being something other than just a comet. And it is, of course, it's interstellar. It's coming in from outside our solar system. And I think that that's a pretty darn cool thing to start looking at and wondering about. Let me ask you, if you knew that there was something coming in, and even if we end up finding out it's a comet or an asteroid that's coming in, which is most likely, and I only say that because we haven't had anything that's been interstellar life yet, the question you would ask, and I wonder, do you think that there's a possibility that this thing, prior to being able to totally identify it, might be something? They think it's got roughly the size and shape of something that could be a vessel of some kind, or some kind of something or other that's carrying life. Life, perhaps advanced life. But the team of astronomers, it's led by Dr. Giulia De Leon of the Istituto di Astrofisica di Carnar. I don't know why I plague myself with these names. She observed it the night of September 12th, using the 10-4 Grand Telescope in the Canaries. And the spectrum of this object is similar to those of solar system comets, and this indicates that their composition must be similar. This was what Dr. De Leon said. And so the comet's heading toward the inner solar system, ours, and it's currently 260 miles away, 257, something like that. And on October 26th, a few days before Halloween, this thing is going to pass right through the elliptic plane from above at roughly 40-degree angle. And so it's expected to make its closest approach to the sun on December 9th. And it's coming in within about 182 million miles of our star. You know, when you're talking outer space, 182 million miles, they're saying, is damn close. So there you go. It's destined for an unprecedented observing campaign lasting many months that's going to allow us to gain sensational insights into the physical properties of interstellar comets. Now, you got to ask yourself, if this is anything that was launched by another life out there, and it takes it several months just to get from the outskirts of our solar system to around Mars and coming closer to us, 182 miles away, that's an awful long time to travel. So it is more than likely a comet, but I know that there has been news all over this morning of this being something that might be other than a comet. And the discovery of this object indicates that interstellar comets might be common and creates this tremendous opportunity to study the first such object. Now, I'm going to hail back to an older blog post of somebody you might recognize, Mike Barra. He's been on Ancient Aliens. He's written a couple of books like The Truth Behind the Moon Landing, Global Warming, Heretic, stuff like this. I don't agree with all his points of view, but he's out there and he's asking, and this was a couple of years ago now, on a different comet, and he's asking, is Comet Ison, I-S-O-N, a spaceship? And he says, who am I to say no? And there's another picture here, and I want to show you this. This is very interesting stuff as far as I'm concerned. This comet that he's speaking about, back in 2013 when he wrote this article, let's see, I think I just lost the article and the photo here. Let me try to do this again so I can get you something to look at. He is saying that this particular object, that it changed shape and it changed some of its lighting qualities. Now, I don't see a follow-up in here on this particular article, but take a look at this. This is what they ended up seeing once it changed its properties a little bit. Let's find it here. I'm going to put in this image, and I didn't do any of this ahead of time, so you're getting the opportunity of seeing me struggle with this just a little bit and listening to me struggle with it just a bit. Here it is. I'm going to import this now and say okay, and let's just bring it up like this. There you go. All right, folks, I think you're seeing that now. Now, this is an object that was out there that was thought to be a comet, and this is something that changed shape into these, you see these little bars of light, and it is shaping kind of an arrowhead shape. Now, that's very interesting. What is that when things do that? The latest from Richard Hoagland. Now, Hoagland, you can look at him as being a hack. You can look at him as being a crock of shit. You can look at him as being a scientist. He's the one that talked a lot about the face on Mars. He talks a lot about these interstellar types of anomalies. It's now morphed into 5 different geometrically angled light bars, and it forms this arrow. And so a couple of days ago, Mike Barra says, he saw some YouTube videos claiming that the comet of the century, Comet Ison, was a spaceship. And the evidence presented a Hubble telescope image of the head of the comet that, when darkened, showed that the nucleus seemed to be made up of 3 precisely spaced and geometrically arranged light bars. And there is actually another photo of this. I might as well grab this and put this up for you as well. Let's see. Let me just go over here. I'm gonna grab this. Those of you on the radio, I know this is scintillating live radio here, but if you want to see these images, just go ahead and come on over to the YouTube channel, and you can see some of this. Let me plug this image into place. I'm going to browse for it here on my computer where I just downloaded it. And let's take a look, and I want you to see this. This is very interesting stuff. So here we go. Now, this is the image of this particular comet that they're capturing, and it looks like this. So now this is the ISON. If you look closely, right smack in the middle of that picture, and then there's a little inset off to the right, you look at the nose of this comet, and it's got these three geometric lights that shape, it's not a right angle, but it's a geometric angle, and it's showing what looks like an arrowhead. So is this something that's worth looking at? Is this something that's worth considering? Now, this was the ISON. Now, that was in 2013 when that took place. So I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what the eventual outcome was of that. But a couple of, I mentioned that. He saw this thing. He said, I'd put something like this into the same category as videos of Nibiru, supposedly setting next to the sun. But something about it bugged me, he said. It reminded me a bit of the X-shaped asteroid that Hubble captured a couple of years ago that looked eerily like an image of the Silver Surfer from the second Fantastic Four movie. I would say it goes much further back than the movie. It goes back into the 1960s and 70s in the comic books. But this was an interesting shape that came up. I might as well show you this one as well. Let me grab this image, and I'll port it over. That was my camera working on my computer, taking an image of this. So let's pull this one up and see what this one looks like. Now, again, I don't have the information handy to be able to tell you. Is this there it is, by the way. This is the image of that particular comet that they said looked kind of Silver Surfer-ish. And this was an X-shaped asteroid that was captured by the Hubble. So you got to start asking yourself, are these anomalies that are created by the telescope itself, the lens, the way it's picking up an image that is hundreds of millions of miles away? Or is there something there? According to Tom Van Flandern's exploded planet hypothesis, most, if not all, comets should have multiple bodies in their nucleus because they're remnants of a couple of planets that exploded in the solar system eons ago. So one possibility that can cross your mind is that immediately that images like this were actually three separate bodies, smeared by the motion of the comet, looking like they're part of a single craft. But several points about this just don't add up. First of all, as you're looking at this picture, if the light bar was echoed by an image smear, as I'm sure will be the eventual explanation coming from NASA, go figure, how could it smear in two different directions, exactly 120 degrees from each other? And how come the bars are so sharp and clear? Let me go back to that image for you. Here, I got to click over a couple of images, not that one, this one. If you take a look at that image now, is that lens smear? How could they go in 120 degree angles away from each other? So you go to the Hubble page in question, you zoom it out a couple of times, and you find the comet, and then hit the darken button a few times, and what do you know? There it is. Try it for yourself. Just follow. There's a link, and I can post this link for you in the chat room. But you look at this link, and you can even do that yourself. So is it a spaceship is the question. I don't have any idea. Mike Barra has no idea. He's just an observer. He's a New York Times bestselling author of The Choice and Dark Mission. And he's an Ancient Aliens contributor. So now all of those things don't add up to whatever he says is goofy. I've been on Ancient Aliens before. I'm not goofy in the head. So who are we to judge other than to look at it? Now, it would be very interesting to do some follow-up on this and find out where exactly this thing came from. So the C29 Q14, that's the new comet now that's in the solar system right now, or the outskirts of it. It's coming in. It's from interstellar space. Some are saying that even 3 weeks now after its first view, that it's looking more and more like it could be something less than a comet. That would be interesting to find out, wouldn't it? Now, let me ask you, in the last few minutes of this first segment, what would you do? How do you think Earth would change if we made interstellar contact with other life that has the technology to actually travel here? Let's get the comet out of our heads for a minute. Just put that back on the supposition burner in the back of our brains. But let's go to the hypothetical. What if intelligences from other lives land a spaceship in front of the Eiffel Tower, or on the lawn of the White House, or on the square in front of the Kremlin, or in some big field somewhere where farmers and hunters are the first ones to see it? What would that do to the way we govern on this planet? By the way, those of you just listening and not seeing, when I move around on my chair like this, you're going to hear all that squeaking. Sorry about that. I got a WD-40 this chair one of these days. So pardon the ambient noise of my office. So how would that change things? Would it change things immensely for us? I think it would, for me. What would that do to our world politics if we knew that the squabbles we have with our own government, the squabbles we have between our government and other governments, all the politics, would that stuff matter anymore if all of a sudden we found out we're actually the young kids on the block? We're the new kids on the block. We might be introduced to something that exists out there. Rocky and I talked about this once before, and I got to find some data on this so I can share it with you. But something called the Federation is out there, and that there are world leaders that already know about this. So the question is, does that really exist? Is there something out there that is like the science fictions that we have? Does interstellar life exist? Let me ask you that question just to start with. In this vast universe, it seems like an awful waste of space if there's nobody else or nothing else out there, other than beautiful bodies that we can't even see. And by bodies, I'm not being Rocky Stucci here. I'm talking about astral bodies that we can't even see with the naked eye until recently. And even then, not with the naked eye, with telescopes. So it's an interesting question. Ponder that for a little bit. How would life change here on this planet if we discovered and it was released that we are not alone and there are greater intelligences than us out there? It's an interesting question, isn't it? So folks, we're up at the break. I got to go out for 2 minutes. You sit tight. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Welcome back from that break, folks. You're listening to me, Scotty Roberts, right here on the Intrepid radio program on Odyssey1.com, the Odyssey Radio Network. If you want to hear the audio, just go to ODYSY1, Odyssey1.com. Or come on over to my live YouTube stream over at youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts, Mr. all spelled out, Scotty with a Y. And you can watch this program and join in with other listeners into the live chat room. Add your 2 cents worth. Make a sardonic or whimsical or smart-ass quip every now and then. And come on in and enjoy the talk. So thanks for being here. It's Friday night. This is our second segment. And I want to hit some of the topics that we were talking about earlier in the week. But let me just wrap up just a little something from the previous hour when we talk about the possibility of extraterrestrial life making itself known on this planet. Why would it not want to be discovered? Why would it be kept a secret? I always ask, why would our government, if indeed there are captured spacecraft, that there are aliens that they found that are still alive and well in secret governmental sequestration, why would we not want people to know? What do you think are the reasons that people shouldn't know? Why should it be kept hidden? Should it be kept hidden? Is this something that everybody on this planet has a right, a universal right, to understand and to know? Why would our government officials want to keep it from us? So there are big questions there. There are so many myths within myths, legends within legends, misinformation within misinformation out there that we don't even know what's true anymore. When President Obama, rightfully so, respecting his former office, came out and said there are no such things as UFOs. We all know he was wrong. We all know there's UFOs. That's being proven more and more every day, even by our own military. But why would they want to keep from us, the people of the world, that there are others out there? And maybe they haven't. Maybe a lot of these experiences that we brush off and say, oh, that's just some idiot, some drunk guy, some mentally deranged person that had those experiences. But what about the credible people who've had experiences? What are these beings? Who are they? I want to do a little bit of a little mini series on this. Maybe coming up next week, we'll jump into this. It's so many different topics I want to hit, but we'll hit this again. Just dwell on those questions. And throughout the rest of the show, if you're over in the chat room, go ahead and throw up your ideas and your opinions. I'd like to see them. I want to make mention, too, that there's something that irks me. I'm a parent, as you all know. I have 6 children. I have 3 of them that are grown up from a previous marriage, twin 27-year-old daughters and an 18-year-old son. They all moved down to North Carolina, where my daughters have a business down there, a very successful one, I might add. And if you want to go see what they do, go to finfolk.com, or finfolkproductions.com, FINFOLK Productions. That's what my daughters do, and they're highly successful at it in their 8th year of business. And so they all live down there. Then I've got 3 little ones at home, 10-year-old boy, 7-year-old girl, 4-year-old girl. All the progeny of Rainey's and my convivial concupiscence. And so those are my 3 new little kids. And along with the kids, we've got, I never liked this notion of having fur babies. You know, oh, I don't have kids, but I got my dog and I got my cat. And I know that's going to irk some people out there. I have very good friends. Some people I love very dearly that love their pets like they're their children. I see a big difference. I can love my dog, I can love my cat, but they're also not my children. Maybe that perspective of having children changes things. My cat, after I die, is not going to go on and carry my family name. I'm not going to bequeath my fortune, such as it is, comic books and action figures, to my cat when I die. My cat might be our, quote, fur baby. The dog might be our fur baby, but they are not our children. And they will never, ever, ever in a million years experience the benefits of being my children, but they will experience the benefits of being my pet, my domesticated animal that lives inside my house and does things as stupid as what my kids do, except they don't have reason. So my dog got out of the house today, and what she does, she is a Lucy. She's officially named Lucy Fur in parentheses. So Lucy Fur is her name, and she fits that category. She's probably the best damn dog we've ever had. She is part pug, and so she's got all the colorings and markings of a pug, but she's part mini English bulldog. So she's got a little taller stature, a little more bulk, musculature, combined with that pug look, and a little more snout than a pug might have. And she's a cool little dog. She's great with the kids. I think she's neurotic as hell, but she's a good dog. One of her things is she loves to get out of the house. And if she can get out of the house, she will run. Now, she doesn't run because she's got something to run away from. She runs because she looks at us and kind of turns around. You call her, you go, Lucy, get back here. And you come on back in the house. She looks at you from about 50 feet away with that whole, ha, F you, I'm running. And catch me if you can. And usually the kids go out and chase her, and I tell them, don't chase her. Just walk in her direction, bring some treats, she'll come to you. I've often wondered why my dog wants to run away. Why do you want to run? You know, we put you on a little cable when you go out. You get to go, do your pee and poop thing in the yard. My kids get to clean it up. And you've got free run of the house practically. What do you want to go outside and run for? She also likes to chase cars. Now, last summer, a year ago, she chased a car, thank goodness, on a very quiet road in front of my wife's grandmother's house out on the lake. And somebody was coming, an older couple coming by in a car, and ran right over her because she's barking at the wheels, chasing it, while my wife is losing her shit. Lucy, stop! Lucy, come back! Thump, 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 and the car runs right over her rib cage. Well, she got a little beat up, but there was no internal damage, and she's obviously, since I'm telling a story about her from this morning, she survived the ordeal. However, did that keep her from running after cars? No. It's like this, one of these big 2-ton automobiles ran over her, she survived it, but she still got to go running chasing cars. I'm like, what kind of retarded, and I use that word in the most non-politically correct way, what kind of retarded, stupid, dumb creature are you that you will chase something that can kill you if it runs over you? And you've already been run over once, and by all the luck of nature itself, you survived. And yet you'll go out and chase a car again. She's done it recently here. And the only reason she gets out of the house is somebody will walk outside and either not latch the door shut as they pull it shut, and it blows open, and she's like, oh, open door. Or she'll just slip out between the kids' feet. She'll go running. Well, she did that this morning again. And my little girl, my 4-year-old, went to chase her, and I go, don't chase her, don't chase her. I'm standing at the top of the driveway. The dog makes it to the middle of the street, which is, thank goodness, a fairly quiet street that we live on. Turns around, looks at me, plops down, sits down right in the middle of the road, just looking at me. And I took one step toward her, and she starts to move like, I'm going to run. Go ahead, come on, chase me. Come on, fat boy, chase me. And I just stopped, and I said, Lucy, come. In the house. And she stared at me for a second, got up and walked over, and I grabbed her by the collar and put her in the house. So what is it with dogs? What is the instinct that makes them want to get outside? They've got everything provided for them. You get food, you get treats, you get loving, you get the pack mentality. You're small enough, you can crawl up in the bed, curl up behind Rainy's knees and go to sleep. She loves sleeping with us. She's a dog. She's sometimes stinky. And I'm like, get the stinky dog out of the bed. But when she's bathed, she's pretty nice. Otherwise, she just smells like, think of a middle schooler who refuses to shower or fakes that he's showered. It's like once my son, who's now 18, my oldest son, laying on the floor in the living room doing something, reading a book or doing something, and I stepped over him to get through the room, and I got this stench of body odor. And it's worse. It's not just body odor. It's not like you're going, oh man, I need deodorant. I got to take a shower. I mean, this was like rotting body odor of a middle schooler. The pubescent, sweaty, newly hormonal, unshowered body odor of a young man. And so I step over him and I go, son, when's the last time you took a shower? And he looks up at me and very nonchalantly says, you mean this week? And I said, up, shower, now. I said, I need you to take a shower. I need you to take a shower with all of Rainy's beautiful girly soaps. I want you smelling like a girly flower when you come out of that. And you're going to put on deodorant. And yes, you got to comb your hair afterwards. And he fought me a little bit. But kids are like dogs. There is no sense of reason yet. It develops as they go. I wonder if a dog lived long enough, would a dog develop any sense of reason? Or is there just a cap? They cap off at stupid, and that's all the higher they can go. Anyway, dogs, cats, if you got them, I don't need to see pictures. I don't really even need to hear about them. Oh, I got a great dog, and my dog does this and that. My dog will go in the toilet and flush it. It's like, I don't care. I like animals. I do. I really do. I love animals. But I get tired sometimes of domesticated animals that live under my care in my house that will either, I don't know, poop on the floor, jump up on the table. I found the same dog, Lucifer. She was up on the table. I went outside and I paused for about 8 seconds and I said, I wonder where she is. I wonder if she got up on the table. I opened the kitchen door and I stick my head in. Sure enough, what's Lucy doing? She's got half her body up on the kitchen table to try to get at the sausages and eggs and stuff that were left on the table. I go, get off the table. And she jumps down right away like, oh my God, I'm caught. But then 12 seconds later, she never knew it happened. So that's a dog for you. I don't think they can ever evolve past a certain point. And she's not lonely, that's for sure. But boy, if Rainey is gone and the kids are all gone at school and I'm here working in my studio, Lucy will come into my studio and she'll lay right down here at my feet and mope. When Rainey was out of town for a weekend with the kids, not too long ago, went up to her grandma's for an overnight, and Lucy just moped all day long, just and nothing would cheer her up. I would sit down in the chair to watch the news. She would hop up in my lap and just curl up in a ball and mope. So I love the dog. She's a great dog. But dogs and kids, I got 6 kids. I got 2 pets. I think that's it for me. Anyway, leave your comments if you want about that. Or you can just move on, as I'm going to do right now. Yesterday, we were talking about, and we have been a couple of days about this whole, I went into nostalgia, and I said, this is the way things were when we were kids. This is what things were like. Oh, man, talk about space exploration, NASA, and all of that stuff. When I was a kid, I was 8 years old. I think I was 8. It was 1969, the moon landing. And they showed us videos of that, such as they were, or a news broadcast of some kind. I mean, we're talking the late 1960s. And I was fascinated by that stuff. Fascinated by space travel. Fascinated by space exploration. And, of course, all of the real-time, real stuff that was going on all morphed into my love of science fiction and Star Trek and eventually Star Wars and all of those mysterious curiosities about that stuff. So when we were younger, and there's a little more nostalgic time. Nostalgia tends to mean it's not quite real. It's the memories we have, and it's our memories that make them seem so wonderful. But you know what? They were wonderful times. I don't think my memories are stunted by my memory or the embellishments my mind wants to put on them. I remember things pretty much for what they were, and it was good times. It was, as technology advanced, we grew with that, and it was like, fantastic, we're going to be a Star Trek world sooner than later. Went through my younger mind in my 20s, and then, of course, you get older and you go, I don't know if that's ever going to happen quite the way we saw that. But those good memories are things that make the past seem better. As we get into this higher technology, we find that we're a society that's in flux. The West is in flux. We mentioned this the other day, that there's this lack of interest anymore in knowing traditional religion. Yes, there are pockets of society, big ones, that are still invested in church and the things they believe in, synagogue and stuff like that. But at the same time, we've grown into a society that's becoming more and more secularized, and we're moving away from those things. Maybe some of that has to do with the advance of technology. But what's exacerbated the problem, especially for the younger generations, is the economic conditions. They look at that stuff and they say there's no getting out of this alive. And that's turned them away, and it's turned them into really away from all the things that used to be the traditional ways that we group together, and into more individuals that are more isolated. There's more emptiness, there's more loneliness, there's more fear of the future than there ever was before. They think the earth is on a metaphoric collision course with disaster. And that's the way a lot of young people think, and it has isolated a lot of young people. The younger set, if you will. There's an emptiness that's growing. We talked about this, and there were some interesting comments in the chat room last night about loneliness. A lot of people saying, I'm not really lonely. I like my loneliness. And I will tell you what, I love my solitude. When my kids and my wife go away for a weekend, there are times like, yes, I have 2 days with no interruptions, just to be quiet, even if I'm just doing nothing. It's like that, what was that song? Some days I don't feel like doing anything. Bum, 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 bum. I think it's a Bruno Mars song. There was a great video of that with Leonard Nimoy in it before he died, obviously. So, in generations past, people who were hollowed out, people who were lonely, I'm talking about that set of people. They didn't have, or they would turn to, the comfort and the security of their friends and their family. They take part in social events. In today's world, we move all over the place. We go with my family. My own family I grew up with. The closest relative I have is 3.5 hour drive from here. And everybody else is all over the country. My own kids are on the other side of the United States. So what people do is they go online and they take out those lonelinesses, and they put it into this virtual world. They post bits of information about themselves, about what they want, about their lonelinesses. They feed off of the social validation. Now, I'm not saying this is everybody. I'm saying this is a generalized view of what's going on nowadays. People thrive off of the validation they get from people that don't know them and people who can't express emotion and emotional support in the same way. They feed off of that, and it satiates them to a certain extent, but then they find the next day they're in that same spot. The defense mechanism that they use, these hollowed out people, the man or woman who is lonely or hollowed out, whereby they flee to the comfort of the crowd to avoid the anxiety that's triggered, excuse me, in times of their own solitude, is also utilized by pre-psychotic individuals. We mentioned that last night, who will step out. Schizophrenics use this. But the only difference is what the schizophrenic is searching for is also what the hollowed out person lacks. And that's this secure sense of self. It's In its extreme form, this is psychologist Rollo May, this fear of losing one's self is the fear of psychosis. The fear of psychosis, not of it, but the fear that comes out of psychosis. The outward turn to the security of the social world usually fails to protect one on the cusp of a psychotic break, and so too it does the outward turn to the world of social media. And ultimately they fail to protect the hollowed-out person from his anxiety and his loneliness. And the solution is like placing a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. This social validation that they're looking for. It's gained through social media and its use, but it's empty as the people who grant it. So for man's search for himself, the hollow among us are bound to become more lonely no matter how much they lean together, for hollow people don't have a base from which to learn to love. What do you think of that statement? That's from Rollo May as well. Man's search for himself. But what makes this defense against emptiness particularly harmful is that it prevents people from taking the necessary steps to address their lack of self. Now, those of you out there who said last night and will maintain again tonight, you're pretty solid with your loneliness. You like your loneliness. I do that. I like my solitude. Not forever, not all the time, but there are moments where I like that. I'm not talking about just the moments. I'm talking about the lifestyle, the whole life that is characterized by this. But we also have, if you can say that about yourself, I like my loneliness. I need my pains. I need my thing. That's because we have a strong sense of self. You get somebody who doesn't have that strong sense of self, and the human being can't live in a condition of emptiness for a very long time. If they're not growing towards something, they don't merely stagnate. It's this pent-up potentialities turn into morbidity. They turn into despair, eventually into destructive activities. And the true antidote to the inner emptiness is to discover what we truly want with our life and to take the actions necessary to bring that self and life into existence. I'm not trying to be all psychobabbly here, but this is what people do when they get on social media to satiate that loneliness and try to find something to fill the emptiness or the hollowness they have about things. What they really need to do is step back and take a deep self-evaluation and find out, what do I need so I don't need those things. I automatically think of Freud and Adler. I mentioned them in my book about the reptilians. Freud looks backwards and says we draw what we want to be and make of ourselves from looking backwards and pulling that information up into the present. Adler said we look forward. We look to what we want to be and the goals we want to reach, and we pull that back and pull ourselves up to it. So it's like that. Those are the things we need to do. We need to pull ourselves toward a goal. It's epitomized by the archetypical picture of the hero's journey. As Joseph Campbell explained in his book, he said the call is to leave a certain social situation, move into your own loneliness, and find the jewel. The center that's impossible to find when you're socially engaged. This is the departure and by the way, those of you who enjoy your solitude and your loneliness, when you have it, your tranquility, that's when you are not socially engaged. You're engaged with self and figuring out your stuff. This is the departure, Campbell goes on, when the hero feels something has been lost and goes to find it. The first step, detachment or withdrawal, consists in a radical transfer of emphasis from the external to the internal world. A retreat from the desperations of the wasteland to the peace of the everlasting realm that's within. But this realm, as we know from psychoanalysis, is precisely the infantile unconsciousness. Unconscious, I should say. It's the realm that we enter into sleep. We carry it within ourselves forever. All of the life potentialities that we never manage to bring to adult realization. Those other portions of ourself are there, for such golden seeds do not die. So facing up to our aloneness and cultivating the golden seeds of our being is no easy task. It requires that we take the bold steps of diminishing our need for social validation. And I'm going to leave that at there because we're at the end of the time. But that hero that we see ourselves being, it's there, it's alive, it's still there. We stagnate it, and we allow that to take us over at times of loneliness. But if you have a good sense of self and how to develop that, and how to still aim toward those goals or morph them as you mature, then you don't have that. And right now, we need to, I'm looking for that point I made in my head. We have to take that bold step of diminishing our need for social evaluation, social valuation. And I think that's the key to not having that loneliness in the social media. And that's why social media can be so dangerous to us and to our psyches, because we use it to validate something that we should be able to validate in our own healthy solitude. All right, that makes sense? Let's leave it there because we're at the end of the time. Folks, thanks for being here. I appreciate your listening to me. Did a lot of rabbit trailing tonight. Did a hell of a lot of storytelling on other things, my dogs and all of that. But we got to go. Thanks for being here. We'll see you after the weekend on Monday night.